In our modern time of the internet, we live in our own echo chamber of the algorithm. As someone finds their interests, or the internet finds your interests, it continues to focus that upon you. If you're interested in politics or social movements, and that could be something either you detest, love, or are interested in, it will keep feeding that to you until that becomes your world. And because of this, now we have a proliferation of zealots. So today I want to define the word, what is a zealot? I remember when I was a kid growing up in the 80s and 90s, I almost never heard that word. And I never really defined it because it wasn't important in everyday speech. But today I've got virtually every major dictionary dating back to 1859 and 4 editions of Webster's Dictionary down to the newest Oxford Dictionary of England and the New Oxford American Dictionaries. What's so fascinating about zealot is it's got its time in biblical roots. But the word that was associated to these people in biblical times that we will find in these dictionaries is being used to show that extremism. So first of all, I want to go through this. We're going to start modern times, then we're going to go all the way back, bring it to the middle, and then let's talk about what has created zealots and how to spot them. First things first, cappuccino. Actually, that was an espresso because it's late. So, oh goodness, 1950s, Webster Dictionary. Oh, third Webster's Dictionary, getting smaller. But let's go to the New Oxford Dictionary of England. And by the way, the American one's the same in this definition, so we're just going to skip it. But zealot, let's read it. It's a noun. A person who is fanatical and uncompromising in the pursuit of their religious, political, or other ideals. Zealot, in terms of history. Historical, a member of an ancient Jewish sect aiming at a world Jewish theocracy and resisting the Romans until AD 70. The origin is the mid-16th century. In the sense, member of an ancient Jewish sect. Interesting. And that's really it. It was relatively small in definition, but look, a person who is fanatical and uncompromising in the pursuit of their religious, political, or other ideals. Well, that perfectly sums up our time and what these zealots are that are created by the internet. And zealots can be in almost anything, not just religion, not just partisan. That's the modern time. So now let's go back to 1859 to Webster's first unabridged dictionary. Now, give me the benefit of being a little slower. I'd like to be respectful of this book, which has seen better times, but I think it's serving a very important use right now for us all to see the history and the change of these words. I have zealotism, zealotry, but what's fascinating is here, simply the word zealot in terms of a noun is not represented. But let's look at it. Zealotism, the character or conduct of a zealot. Okay, what's a zealot? Zealotry, the behavior of a zealot. Fascinating. It does not tell you what a zealot is in here. However, being at the 1859, life was a lot different. People were more well-read and, I believe, far more versed in religious history. Oh boy, I'm going to have to do a little restoration work on this beautiful old book. So, with it not being in there, there's a possibility that the word was more common knowledge than we give it credit to. But I don't know. I am guessing. So here's Webster's New International Dictionary. Very beautiful, at a time when we truly cared about our books. Now this one was printed in 1911. And I love these turn-of-the-century dictionaries. You can find everything in here, from information about fencing to how to rig a tall ship. But let's go to zealot and see what we find. Zealot, one who is zealous, one who engages warmly in any cause and pursues his object with earnestness and ardor, especially one who is overzealous or carried away by zeal. One absorbed in devotion to anything, an enthusiast, a fanatical partisan. Interesting. Now let's go on to the second here. The Jewish antiquities. One of a fanatical sect which bitterly opposed the Roman domination of Palestine, Canaanian. During the Great Rebellion and the siege of Jerusalem, there were terrible opponents not only to the Romans, but to other Jewish factions. That's interesting. So 1911, in Webster's New International Dictionary, which was the next printing, big, beautiful book. They've really done a good job. I mean, there's unbelievably beautiful illustrations and things in here. So this is truly a wondrous book. So it has been defined. However, one who is zealous, one who engages warmly in any cause, that's soft, that's pleasant. You know, in this circumstance in 1911, a zealot might be somebody that's just very passionate. However, it can be one who is overzealous or carried away by zeal, one absorbed in devotion to anything, an enthusiast, a fanatical partisan. Only then in the definition are we slightly touching on the fanatic, the fanatical partisan, which in the modern dictionary, the Oxford Dictionary, think about how it was uncompromising in their belief and fanatical devotion. It was truly hard, truly extreme. A symptom of our time, perhaps. So I'm looking forward to discuss that. But it is very interesting to see the Jewish antiquity and the definition going way back to then and the people that were true zealots. However, what we do see here in the early part of the 20th century is the slight change from being a little warm to getting to the fanatical devotion. And it did mention the phrase the word overzealous, which is interesting because people still use that now and then. But I think that word is starting to fall somewhat out of favor, shall we say, from the everyday vernacular. All right, let's go onward. Yes, Webster's New Dictionary, the second edition. Now this one, if I'm not mistaken, was printed in 1953. 1954. Now, this also is a big, beautiful book. It has more color printing, everything from great seals of the United States and its territories. There are photos and prints of battleships from World War II and such. Keep in mind, this is only 10 years since World War II. So a lot of interesting things in here, which we'll save for another time on this channel. But zealot, let's look at it here. One who is zealous, one who engages warmly in any cause and pursues his object with earnestness and ardor. One who is overzealous or carried away by zeal, one absorbed in devotion to anything, an enthusiast, a fanatical partisan. The definition is exactly the same from 1911, with which we just read. It's a little softer, it's a little warmer in that regard. Now I'm curious. Let's go to Webster's third new International Dictionary unabridged. Now, forgive me, I don't recall when this one was printed, so let's find out. This is the first Casey's Golden Shovel definition video. And I promise you guys, my first real video would be entitled Sanity in a Time of Zealots. So here we are. Third New International Dictionary, principal copyright 1961. So only a short time after the second one, and from 1911, that was 50 years from the first. So, zealot, let's see if it's the same definition or it has changed to some degree. It's been broken down a little bit here. Okay. One of a fanatical sect bitterly opposing the Roman domination of Palestine during the Great Rebellion and siege of Jerusalem, and opposing not only Romans but other Jewish factions. Okay, so we are back to the historic definition. Now, two.
I misread the line. One who is zealous, one who embraces a cause and supports it with vigor and enthusiasm, one who is carried away by his zeal, a fanatical partisan, see enthusiast.
Now, this is fascinating. Now in 1961, in Webster's third New International Dictionary, which is only 7 years after the New International Dictionary, second edition I have, but 50 years after this one, the first definition is now the historic Jewish and Palestinian definition of the people back when. The second one, of course, being one who is zealous, obviously, one who embraces a cause and supports it with vigor and enthusiasm. Positive, but has changed a bit. One who is carried away by zeal, a fanatical partisan. The fanatical partisan. So we're getting a little stronger here, but what's unusual is now the religious historic definition has moved to the number 1 spot with that. Could just be an oddity. So let's do this. Let's go to the Oxford American edition. I mistrust anything of the English language that says American, and I'm an American. Come on, y'all. Let's talk American. Okay, here we go. Zealot. Where is it? I'm American. I cannot find it. Here it is. A person who is fanatical and uncompromising in the pursuit of their religious, political, or other ideals. There it is. Second definition, historical, a member of an ancient Jewish sect aiming at a world Jewish theocracy and resisting the Romans until AD 70. It's less, which is also fascinating in this book. You can see in modern times how much less pride, how much less care has truly gone into it. The Webster's dictionaries from 1911, and most especially the one from the 50s, are beautiful books. They're a treasure trove of a time we truly cared about the world around us, how we defined it, how we interacted, and how we communicated. And now, this is just reflective of a disgusting, boring, postmodern world. And you're lucky if you get a definition. But in this circumstance, we do have a definition, but it's extreme. Now, tomorrow's video is going to be on fascism, and I promise you, hold on to your butts. That's going to be interesting. But today it's zealots. People who are uncompromising in their beliefs, fanatical, fanatically partisan, political, religious, social beliefs. So how is it that a word representing people from biblical times, which you would know more if you were a theological scholar or deeply religious and interested in history, became something that is so incredibly relevant today? Now, I say that because typically, when I would think of zealots in the past, and when I first realized the word, I would think of a fanatical religious person. And to be perfectly honest, I think the first time that I kind of had a feeling what zealot meant when I was a kid, I was watching a science fiction movie about a religious zealot that presumably blew up a ship or a planet or something. But frankly, that exists in the real world too. But you would think of it only as somebody who perhaps was so indoctrinated by a cult or religion, something that's classically so powerful as to make people fanatics, that they act or attack in some way, that they've no longer effectively, I don't want to say can listen to reason, but can objectively look at another perspective and consider it anymore. They're shut in. Their mind has closed off and been locked. And today, that exists with politics in the United States. You could be right-wing, you can be left-wing. I don't know if there's really a centered zealot, because the center has shifted, of course. But you can be extreme to one side or the other. Or you can just be extremely middle. Honestly, there's zealotry of just being ignorant nowadays. There's zealotry of being a victim. There's zealotry of race. There's zealotry of fluid sexualities. They come up with something new every day. And they're zealots about it. You pick a subject, you pick a social movement or a political direction, and we have zealots. Now, something that I realized before doing Casey's Golden Shovel, this new channel, I had a run-in with some zealots. And actually, I'm going to make a video about it. And this was relating to race. Shall I say, I fell for the bait of the zealots. They were talking about a video which, to any, shall we say, more well-adjusted person or balanced person, you'd see something and be like, oh, that little girl didn't get her medal. Might have taken care of it afterward. However, they say, if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. Well, if you happen to be a zealot about race, this video that presumably was an innocent mistake, now is a huge racial problem. Even if it happened in another country, and is completely irrelevant to literally anything about your life whatsoever. But we see that, don't we? If you see somebody that's very, very religious, maybe not so well studied, but they're just really into it, anything they can't explain, or anything that seems charming or magical or positive or negative or something that, shall we say, more of the public might call karma, they will attribute it to their religion and more proving their belief. Even though in the reality of it, it doesn't necessarily actually prove anything, makes them feel more strongly about what they are devoted to and believe. But my run-in with these zealots was when I said something absolutely neutral. I said, just off the cuff, wasn't thinking about it, walked right into the trap. Looks like an honest mistake. Not everything has to do with race. That's all I said. Which, very true and easy. But the zealots attacked, and attacked hard. Didn't expect it. I find it mildly entertaining because the thing about the zealots are, I think they attack harder when you're neutral. If you took a standpoint opposing them or opposite, they would hit you hard but write you off. Whereas a zealot, I think perhaps, regardless of what it is that a person is zealous about, if a person is strongly neutral, that's a person they want to convert. Perhaps you've ever been to a college party or a bar. Have you ever noticed that every drunk wants everybody else to be drunk? It's kind of like that, isn't it? But a neutral person is someone you might have a better chance at converting. So they attack you hard, put you on your heels, and hope that you'll capitulate. Come to their side enough that they can perhaps turn you into a zealot, regardless of what that may be. So how did we get to this point? Well, I may just have been an automotive YouTuber, but it doesn't really matter what your media or medium or subject matter is. When you do social media long enough and you see the relationship with traditional media and you see people how are creating sensational headlines, clickbait, algorithms, looking at analytics to understand the algorithms, to make things that work, to get shown, you understand the mechanics of this. And of course, in our time, virtually everybody has a cell phone. And the cell phone feeds you things. You may all have noticed that different platforms you may enjoy more or less than others. It's interesting. Instagram's pretty fun. But something like Facebook, YouTube not quite as bad, most especially TikTok, oh dear Lord, Twitter and X, feeds you the things that are more likely to turn you into a zealot. But how strong is a person's convictions that keeps them centered, that keeps them with the ability to give consideration to another point of view without necessarily adopting it for their own, but always looking within, always using your own interpersonal checks and balances to know, perhaps it's time for me to alter my perspective. Well, that was a method of thinking that I think is more truly healthy and something that is sorely needed in this modern time. But I wanted to define zealot so we all know that. We know the word. And when we're looking, please, by all means, if this is your new hammer, don't turn every problem and everything you see into a nail. Just because somebody's into something does not make them a fanatical nut. But if we can recognize this, and if you find groups of people who will attack you only for being neutral, you may have found the zealots. So the question is, how will we move past this time in our society, in our civilization? Because the one worst danger is, a true zealot is a dangerous tool. They're blinded and foolish. And truthfully, they're very easy manipulated. as long as their zealotry falls within the ability to use it for social, political, or even economical gain. Perhaps all three of the same. And in fact, in the United States of America, I could probably name you 5 different ideals, directions, or facets of zealotry that is truly being used politically as a weapon. The people mean nothing to the political movements, but they are effectively brainless weapons. It's been said in the past, called useful idiots. So perhaps this proliferation of zealotry right now isn't so accidental. I can tell you that social media platforms, they want you to stay on their platform because they can sell you ads and make money. They want you to be addicted. They will program the algorithms to keep you there. And one of the best ways to keep you addicted is to keep you fighting with others, to keep you triggered, to keep poking you. Perhaps this addiction, this echo chamber that we're creating for profit and power by social media platforms and utilized by political movements and governments, is what's creating this. So the first step is recognizing it. The second step is, what is there to do about it? In any case, we have defined zealots and zealotry. So after this video, when I seize it, I'm going to talk about it. And it will be part of the playlist of zealots. And in the future, when we define new words, the next one being fascism, I can't wait. I'll do the same. I hope you enjoyed it. It's my first go. So please subscribe to The Golden Shovel, click the bell, comment, whatever it is you like. We are in this together, and it's time we think. And isn't it fascinating how just picking up a dictionary, you can debunk the BS and politicians that are truly full of crap. It's fascinating. If only there was a magic building that was free to go into that would let you read any book. If only that existed everywhere. Oh, right, it does. It's called a library. Pick up the book. The best thing about it is fascists can't edit it or censor it. You know, they can try to burn them, but hang on to these puppies. They're worth their weight in gold. See you next time.